The average American household spends over $2,000 a year on electricity alone. Add gas, water, heating oil, and the monthly stack of utility bills that arrive like clockwork, and the number climbs past $4,000. Over a 30-year mortgage, that is more than $120,000 sent to utility companies for the privilege of keeping the lights on and the house warm. The Amish pay none of it. Zero. Not a single monthly bill for electricity, gas, water, heating, or cooling. And they are not living in the dark. They are not freezing. They are not going hungry. They are running households, feeding families of 8, 10, and 12, preserving food through brutal winters and staying warm through January nights in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Indiana without sending a check to anyone. This is not a collection of clever tricks. It is a complete system, an interlocking set of technologies, traditions, and community structures that has kept 400,000 people off the grid for 3 centuries. Most of the world sees the buggies and the bonnets and thinks the Amish are living in the past. What they are actually doing is something far more radical. They are living outside the system that everyone else cannot imagine leaving. This is how they do it. The foundation of Amish energy independence begins with heat, because heat is the most expensive problem a household can face. A family in Ohio or Pennsylvania needs reliable warmth from October through April, 6 months of cold, sometimes brutal cold with temperatures dropping below zero in the worst stretches. The modern American solution is a furnace connected to a gas line or the electric grid controlled by a thermostat, maintained by a contractor, and paid for by a monthly bill. The Amish solution is older, simpler, and completely self-contained. The wood-burning stove is the center of nearly every Amish home, not a fireplace. The Amish understood decades ago, and later energy scientists confirmed that an open fireplace loses up to 90% of its heat up the chimney. A closed wood stove, properly dampened and fed, captures and radiates the majority of the heat from the fire into the room. Most Amish homes have at least 2, one in the basement or main floor for general heating, and a wood-burning cook stove in the kitchen that doubles as both a cooking surface and a secondary heat source. The skill required to operate a wood stove well is not trivial. Leonard, the Amish storekeeper we documented in our shunning video, described how his mother had to learn to bake bread on a wood stove after moving from a more liberal community where propane was permitted. Maintaining a steady temperature of 350 degrees inside a wood-fired oven, hot enough to bake and consistent enough to produce an even loaf, requires constant attention. You monitor airflow, you adjust dampers, and you learn to read the color of the coals and the sound of the draw. This is knowledge passed from mother to daughter across generations, and it is disappearing everywhere except in communities like this one. But some Amish households go further than the standard cast iron stove. In parts of Pennsylvania and Ontario, families use masonry heaters, massive structures built from brick or stone, often weighing 2 tons or more, designed to absorb the heat from a single intense fire and release it slowly over the next 12 to 24 hours. A masonry heater burns hotter and faster than a conventional wood stove, which means it burns cleaner with less smoke, fewer emissions, and more complete combustion. You light one fire in the morning, and the stone radiates warmth through the evening and into the night. The technology is not Amish in origin. It traces to Northern European and Russian traditions, but the Amish adopted it because it solves the same problem they solve with everything else: maximum output from minimum dependence. If this is your first time here, subscribe. We go deep inside the communities most people never take the time to understand. The wood itself comes from the family's own land or from neighboring woodlots. Amish families spend weeks each fall cutting, splitting, and stacking firewood, a labor-intensive process that in most communities is done with hand tools, crosscut saws, and horse-drawn wagons. The work is physical, slow, and communal. Children participate from a young age. A single household might burn 5 to 8 cords of wood per winter, depending on the size of the home and the severity of the season. A cord of wood, if purchased, costs between $200 and $400. If you cut it yourself from your own land, it costs nothing but time. This is the first principle of the system. The fuel is free because the labor is yours. The second challenge is keeping food cold, And this is where the ingenuity deepens. The modern world assumes that refrigeration requires electricity. The Amish have at least 5 separate methods for keeping food cold, and most households use several of them simultaneously. The root cellar is the oldest. Dug beneath the house or built into a hillside, a root cellar uses the Earth's natural insulation to maintain temperatures between 32 and 40 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. Potatoes, carrots, onions, apples, beets, canned goods, all of it stores for months in a properly built cellar with adequate ventilation and humidity control. Nearly every Amish home has one. The spring house is more elegant. In communities near natural springs, and many Amish settlements were deliberately located near cold water sources, families build small structures over or adjacent to a spring, channeling the water beneath the floor or through stone troughs inside the building. The constant flow of cold groundwater, typically around 50 to 55 degrees, creates a natural refrigeration environment. Milk, butter, cheese, and eggs are stored in sealed containers, submerged in the trough or placed on shelves in the cooled air. One Amish bishop in Pennsylvania had a mountain stream channeled directly through his kitchen, a stone trough fed by alpine water that kept perishables cold without any mechanism at all. Then there is ice. In Wisconsin, Indiana, Ohio, and other northern communities, Amish families gather in January or February for what amounts to a community ice harvest. Men cut blocks from frozen ponds using circular saws mounted on sleds, supplemented by chainsaws. The blocks, each weighing 50 to 100 pounds, are hauled by horse and wagon to ice houses, small insulated structures packed with sawdust or straw between the blocks. 25 to 30 tons of ice will fill a standard 12 by 12 by 8 foot ice house. If the doors open and close quickly and the insulation is intact, that ice will last into summer and sometimes beyond, well into a second year. Families then transfer blocks into kitchen ice boxes as needed, creating cold storage that predates the electric refrigerator by centuries and outlasts it in reliability. In more progressive communities, the Amish have adopted propane-powered and kerosene-powered refrigerators, absorption units that run on flame rather than electricity. These cost between $7 and $14 per week to fuel, depending on the model and fuel prices. Some communities have also adopted solar panels specifically to power milk coolers in dairy operations and small refrigeration units in homes. The key distinction is that none of these draw from the public grid. The power source is owned, operated, and maintained by the family. Self-sufficiency is not about rejecting cold storage. It is about refusing to depend on someone else to provide it. Subscribe if you're finding this interesting. We release new deep dives every week. Beyond refrigeration, the Amish preserve food on a scale that most modern households cannot imagine. Canning is the backbone of that system, and an Amish pantry in September might hold 500 to 1,000 jars of preserved fruits, vegetables, meats, sauces, and pickles. The work happens in late summer and early fall, often involving the entire family, and the results fill root cellar shelves from floor to ceiling. They use pressure canning for low-acid foods like meats and vegetables. They use water bath canning for fruits and pickles. The process is not recreational. It is the infrastructure of winter survival. Smoking and curing handle the meat. Most Amish farms have a smokehouse, a small outbuilding where pork, beef, and sometimes venison are cured with salt, sugar, and spices, then hung in a chamber filled with hardwood smoke for days or weeks. The smoke deposits antimicrobial compounds onto the meat's surface, creating a preserved product that lasts months without refrigeration. Sausages, hams, and bacon are stored in cool pantries or cellars. In some communities, cooked meats are submerged and rendered lard inside stoneware crocks. The fat creates an airtight seal that blocks bacteria and preserves the meat for weeks. Fermentation, including sauerkraut, pickled vegetables, and fermented dairy, adds another layer. Dehydrating fruits and vegetables, either in the sun or in low-heat ovens, adds another method. Each method addresses a different type of food, a different season, a different storage need. Together, they form a redundant system with no single point of failure, no single technology that, if it breaks, leaves the family without options. Water is the third pillar. The average American household is connected to a municipal water system, metered, billed, and dependent on pumping stations powered by the same grid that provides electricity. The Amish bypass this entirely. In most communities, water comes from private wells, equipped with hand pumps or windmill-driven pumps. A hand pump draws water from 30 to 200 feet below the surface, using nothing but human effort. A windmill pump does the same work using the wind, filling a gravity-fed storage tank that supplies the house through ordinary plumbing. No electricity, no monthly bill, no connection to any municipal infrastructure. In communities near mountain springs or creeks, gravity-fed systems carry water directly into the home through pipes laid downhill from the source. The water arrives cold, clean, and free. Some families also use hydraulic ram pumps, a 19th century technology that uses the energy of flowing water to pump a portion of that water uphill to a storage tank. The device has no motor, requires no fuel, and runs continuously as long as the source water flows. It is one of the most elegant pieces of engineering the Amish have adopted, and most Americans have never heard of it. Lighting follows the same principle of independence. When the sun goes down, Amish homes are lit by kerosene lamps, propane gas lights, or battery-powered LED fixtures charged by small solar panels. The kerosene lamp, the most traditional option, costs roughly $2 to $3 per week to fuel. A propane gas light, mounted on the wall with a small mantle, produces a brighter, steadier light and runs from the same propane tank that might power a refrigerator. In more progressive communities, solar-charged LED lanterns have become common. They carry no ideological weight because the power source is self-contained and off the grid. None of these solutions are as bright or as convenient as flipping an electric light switch. That is the point. The Amish do not optimize for convenience. They optimize for independence. Every technology they adopt must pass the same test. Does it make us more dependent on the outside world or less? If the answer is more, it is rejected, no matter how useful it might be. The homes themselves are designed to support this philosophy. Amish construction tends toward thick walls, tight joinery, and strategic window placement that maximizes passive solar gain during winter while minimizing heat loss. Central chimney placement, positioning the chimney in the middle of the house rather than on an exterior wall, ensures that the heat generated by the stove radiates in all directions rather than escaping through an outside wall. These are not innovations. They are construction principles that pre-industrial builders understood intuitively, and that modern architecture, with its reliance on mechanical heating and cooling, largely abandoned. This brings us to the element that ties everything together, the community itself. An Amish family is never truly operating alone. When a barn burns, the community rebuilds it, often within a single day, with 100 or more men arriving at dawn, framing walls, raising beams, and completing the structure by evening. This is not a metaphor. This is mutual aid functioning as a replacement for insurance. The Amish do not carry homeowners insurance. They do not carry health insurance. They were exempted from Social Security in 1965 because they demonstrated that their internal system of mutual support made government programs redundant. When a family faces a medical bill, and Amish medical bills can be substantial since many families pay cash for hospital births, surgeries, and emergency care, the community organizes benefit auctions, direct contributions, and sometimes interest-free loans from church funds. The cost is distributed across the district. No family bears a catastrophic expense alone. This means the Amish energy system is not just a collection of physical technologies, wood stoves, root cellars, ice houses, smoke houses. It is a social technology. The community functions as the backup generator. The neighbor's woodlot is the emergency fuel reserve. The church district's mutual aid fund is the insurance policy. The system works because the community works, and the community works because every member understands that their survival depends on every other member's willingness to show up. The American energy grid is a marvel of engineering. It delivers electricity to 140 million households across 3.5 million square miles. It powers hospitals, factories, data centers, and homes with a reliability rate exceeding 99%. When it fails, as it did in Texas in 2021, leaving millions without heat during a winter storm and killing over 200 people, the consequences are catastrophic precisely because the dependence is total. The Amish grid is different. It has no central node. It has no single point of failure. It cannot be disrupted by a winter storm, a cyber attack, a supply chain collapse, or a rate hike from a utility company. It runs on wood from the family's own land, ice from the community's own ponds, water from the community's own springs, food from the community's own gardens, and labor from the community's own hands. It is slower. It is harder. It requires more physical work than most modern Americans would tolerate for a single day. It demands skills that take years to learn. Reading a wood fire, building an ice house, canning 500 jars of tomatoes in a week, butchering and smoking a hog. It is not romantic. It is not easy. It is not for everyone, but it is free. And it has been running without interruption for 300 years. 400,000 people. No utility bills, no grid, no dependence on any system they do not control. That is not a lifestyle choice. That is an infrastructure, and it works. Thank you for watching. If this is your first time here, please subscribe. We go inside the communities the world talks about, but never takes the time to understand. New content every week.